Hi folks, Ned Canty here, General Director of Opera Memphis and Stage Director for our production of The Elixir of Love coming up February 2nd. I've been asked by a special friend of the opera to provide a little synopsis of what the story is about. And to assist me, I asked stage management to help out with some puppets. I'm a big fan of visuals. So here we go, story of Elixir of Love in 5 minutes or less. So, there's this guy, Nemorino. This is him. He lives in a little town, and he is in love with Adina right here. Been in love with her pretty much his whole life. She is rich. She inherited lots of land from her parents. She kind of owns everything in the town. Everybody answers to her in one way or another. When they were young, they spent all their time together. They were sweethearts. When they were 11, they pretended to get married, but they were inseparable. And then she went off to boarding school, probably in Europe somewhere, and then went to some fancy college back east. And when her parents died, she came back to their town, and everybody thought she would get married or sell everything, but she didn't. She decided to stay and run everything herself. And Nemorino thought, hey, this is great. She's finally back. We can finally be together. Whereas she had been gone for years and years and hadn't forgotten Nemorino, but certainly didn't imagine that whatever promises they'd made to each other when they were 11 would still count. That's how the opera begins. He loves her. She couldn't care less. Into the story comes this guy, Sergeant Belcore. As you can probably tell from the costumes, the production is set in the Old West, so we've got a sort of Custer figure here in Belcore. Belcore comes to town with a couple of soldiers. He's been stationed there. He sees Adina. Probably he's heard that there's some rich, pretty young thing who needs a husband. So he's come to town, he sees her, he immediately starts flirting with her, trying to woo her, even going so far as to propose marriage. She kind of sees through all that and says, no way you're going to get me, fella, not with that mustache. And he goes off to have a couple of drinks with his guys. And Nemorino says, hey, Adina, let's talk about you and me. And she's like, look, I have no interest in you. I go through lovers the way, other people go through socks, and I change lovers every day. You should do the same. Forget about me. Go love somebody else. All right? Meanwhile, this guy, Dr. Dulcamata, has come to town. Now, Adina has read a book in an early aria. She's read the love story of Tristan and Isolde about which involves a love potion. So Dr. Dulcamara comes to town. He's a medicine man, and he is selling an elixir, which he claims can do all kinds of things, from killing bed bugs to curing rickets and diabetes. And so he gets everybody all worked up in a wonderful bravura aria, and everybody buys out his stock. Everybody wants what he has to sell. Nemorino overhears this, and having heard the story from Adina about this elixir of love, says, hey, Doc, do you have this elixir of love? And he says, what are you talking about? Of course I do. I'm the distiller. Everybody needs the elixir of love. But he's sold out of his stock, so he goes and he grabs a bottle of Bordeaux, pulls the label off and says, here you go, elixir of love. It'll take 24 hours to take effect. Of course, he knows by that point he will have moved on. There's a lot of asides in this opera, so he comes down to the audience and says, of course, by that point I will be long gone. Then Nemorino drinks down this entire bottle thinking it's elixir and it's going to take 24 hours, and never having drunk before, it definitely feels the effects of this so-called elixir, which is actually a bottle of wine. Adina comes back on stage, and Nemorino sees her and says, you know what? She's told me to, give up, to stop bothering her, so I am not going to bother her until tomorrow when the elixir will take effect. And Adina notices, he seems kind of happy and weird, and he's ignoring me. Why isn't he paying attention to me? And she starts trying to get his attention, and he keeps saying, I'm not going to pay attention to her. She told me to leave her alone. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. And this gets her more and more angry, and she assumes that he's taking her advice, but she's a little upset that he's taking it so fast and that he's ignoring her, and he seems okay with it. So she is trying to get his attention. He's not paying attention to her, and at that moment, Belcore comes back on stage, and Adina says, great, I'm going to use Belcore to make Nemorino jealous. And so she proceeds to do that, even going so far as to say to Belcore, I will marry you. And he says, when, darling? And she says, in 7 days. And Nemorino says, ha ha, 7 days? By tomorrow she will be mine, ha ha. Adina sees him laughing and is thinking, why would this guy be laughing? He's supposed to love me. And Belcore sees him laughing and says, who's this punk laughing? I should go over and thump him. And then Ginetta, Ginetta. Ginetta is a local entrepreneur specializing in, shall we say, short-term matrimony. Ginetta comes running and says, "Hey, Sergeant, there's word. Here, it's a letter from your captain." And Belcore reads the letter and says, "Oh my gosh, I need to leave town tomorrow. Adina, since you've already agreed to marry me in a week, why not marry me tonight?" And Nemorino says, "Uh-oh, if he marries her tonight, the elixir won't take effect." And so he has this wonderful aria where he kind of embarrasses himself in front of everyone and says, "Adina, please, don't get married tonight. Just wait. I can't tell you why, but just wait." And Belcore says, "Look, kid, get out of here or I'm going to thump you." And Adina says, "I will show him for taking the advice that I told him to take to leave me alone. I want to see him weeping at my feet." And that's how Act 1 ends. Act 2 starts out, it's the beginning of the wedding. Everybody's partying and dancing and happy, with the exception of Nemorino, who hasn't even shown up yet. But Adina doesn't actually want to get married until Nemorino's there, because the whole point of getting married to this buffoon is that she wants to make Nemorino jealous and upset. So she goes looking for him. Belcore is a little thrown. Why does she want to put off the wedding now? He sees Nemorino, who is distraught because he doesn't have enough money to buy another bottle of elixir from this guy, who says, "Look, kid, I'm not running a charity here. Come back when you have some money." So he's distraught. Belcore hears, "Hey, was that you I heard saying that you needed some money? Why not join the army and you'll get 20 bucks and you can use that however you like?" And Nemorino says, "Wait a minute. So if I join the army, I get 20 bucks, I have the money to pay for the elixir to make Adina love me, but tomorrow I need to join the army and I can't be with her. But if I don't join the army and get the $20, I don't have the money to buy the elixir from Dulcamara, and Adina will end up marrying this guy and I'll lose her anyway." So it's quite a dilemma. So eventually he decides to do it, and he figures even one night with Adina will be worth whatever it takes, even if it means joining the army. So he does it, and he goes off, and Nemorino says, "Ha ha ha, I've recruited my rival, ha ha ha," and goes back off stage. Meanwhile, Ginetta has found out some very important news about Nemorino. Early in the first act, there's an offhand reference to this rich uncle of Nemorino's who's not in very good health. Ginetta has found out that he is dead, and he's left everything to Nemorino. And now that Nemorino is no longer just some guy, but is actually a millionaire, all the women in town start thinking, gosh, I'd forgotten how much I liked Nemorino. He's actually quite handsome and noble, and he wouldn't be such a bad husband after all. And so all the women in town start acting like they love him, like they want to be with him. And Nemorino thinks, "Oh, I know why they're doing that. It's because I went and I bought another bottle of elixir from the doctor and I drank it." Then Adina comes on. She's still in her wedding dress. Adina comes on and sees all of this and is like, "What is going on? The whole point of getting married to that oaf Belcore was to make Nemorino jealous, and here he is. He looks thrilled. He's surrounded by women. He seems perfectly happy." And Dulcamara sees that Nemorino is surrounded by women, doesn't know about the inheritance, and thinks, "Oh my goodness, my elixir works." He's very, very happy about that. So there's a bit of a kerfuffle there where Adina's trying to talk to Nemorino, but he's surrounded by women, and all the other women start to take offense to Adina because Adina could have had this guy any time, and she's been turning him down for the entire opera. And they start saying, "Man, she thinks that every man in town should just be hers. That's not fair." So this is the moment where if you're free to keep listening, and I'll tell you the rest of the story, but I would recommend that you stop watching now and you just go and enjoy the opera. Hopefully that's enough to get you going. But just in case you're the kind of person who likes to read the last page of the book before it ends, you can keep listening. But if you're the kind of person who doesn't like spoilers, who wants to just enjoy it, please stop now. Turn me off. Okay, I'm going to assume that if you're with me, you either know the story and find a general director playing with puppets amusing, or you really want to know how it ends before you decide whether or not to come see it. So, Adina goes to Belcore and buys back the recruitment papers from Nemorino because, if nothing else, she certainly doesn't want him physically harmed. She doesn't want him dead. The whole point was to make him jealous, was to torment him, to show that she's not the kind of woman that men get over in a day. She doesn't want him dead, so she goes and she buys back his recruitment papers, and then she goes and finds him. Now when he was surrounded by women, he saw that she was affected by this. She saw that she was jealous, and he saw that she was so moved that she even wept a single tear. Una furtiva lagrima, a furtive tear. And he saw it, and he sings this fantastic aria, Una furtiva lagrima, which you may have heard. It's probably the most famous piece. And then Adina comes back on with the recruitment papers and says, hey, Nemorino, I've bought back your recruitment papers. Stay. Don't go off and get killed. And Nemorino thinks, oh, well, of course she bought my recruitment papers. It's because the elixir's working and she loves me. But then Adina, who now has to deal with the fact that, A, she's been just a total raving wench towards Nemorino the entire opera, but now realizes how much she loves him and is trying to win him back. She has to figure out how to tell him that, and she gets cold feet, and she starts to leave, and Nemorino says, whoa, 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 wait a second, don't you have anything that you want to say to me? And she says, no. And she starts to leave, and he goes, fine, if that's it, if you don't love me, then I'm gonna go and join the army, I want to die if I can't have you. And she says, no, wait, I really like you, and in fact, I love you. And he says, wait a minute, you love me? And she says, yes, I love you. And he says, you love me? Yes, I love you. You love me? Yes, I love you, she says. And they hug and kiss. And then she says, I know I've been just totally horrible to you, but I promise that as bad as I've made you feel, from now on, I will just be fantastic, and I'll make you feel as good as I've made you feel bad, and I swear to love you forever. And they kiss more, and they swirl around a little bit. And then Belcore comes on, and sees the two of them together, and he's like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on here? And she says, look, Belcore, what's done is done, he says. There are plenty of women for a guy like me, whatever. And Dulcamara, who originally had thought that his love potion actually worked because he saw Nemorino surrounded by all these women, hears about the inheritance, realizes, oh, that's why all of those women were surrounding him, and says, hey, take my elixir. Not only does it get you love, but it also creates wealth, and you'll get a big inheritance. And everybody says, hooray, let's all buy some elixir. And he rides off into the sunset, and Belcore goes off somewhere else, possibly with Ginetta, who's always going to end up, she is an entrepreneur. She'll always do well by herself. And everybody else celebrates and says goodbye to Dulcamara. And we have one final kiss, and then the curtain comes in. So that's the plot. It's, there's more in there too. Hopefully, if you've watched it all the way through, you are now just a little bit more likely to come and see the Elixir of Love. And for the person who requested that, this one's for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you February 2nd at GPAC for the Elixir of Love, or February 5th if you can't make it on the 2nd. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.